All right, green-white enchantments. This is a deck that we played a little bit of in Standard, and then it was kind of one that I mostly wrote off just because it's pretty bad in Standard against the flurry of Brazen Borrowers and 3-mana Tefris that all the good decks in that format are playing. That being said, it's very possible a deck that's very similar to something that's not playable in Standard can be good even in Historic because the format's just different and what you're trying to attack is different. So this deck is based around cards like Setessan Champion here. Whenever an enchantment is in the battlefield near your control, it gets a 1/1 counter and you draw a card. And we've got things like Season of Growth that when we enchant our creatures, we draw cards. And then we've got a bunch of powerful enchant creatures like Ancestral Mask here from the new Historic Anthology, which makes one of our creatures really big based on the number of enchantments in play. We have All That Glitters that powers up based on artifacts and enchantments. This is a standard legal card. We've got Training here to give things trample in case they've got chump blockers. And then we've got Sentinel's Eyes, which is a recurable enchantment thanks to the escape mechanic, which allows us to kind of generate more value over the long term after they kill some of our creatures. Sentinel's Eyes here also notably gives Vigilance, which would allow Paradise Druid to retain its hexproof while attacking, which tends to be very powerful. Out of the sideboard, we've got a bunch of cheap interaction, as well as some extra threats. And then I also have 3 copies of another Historic Anthology card here, Sigil of the Empty Throne. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. So this is a card that we kind of bring in against really removal-heavy decks to increase our threat density with each enchantment that we put into play. Let's go ahead and hop on into the Historic ladder here with this one and see how it goes. You think a black-green enchantments deck with Regisaur and Great Henge could be strong? I would be surprised if the Great Henge is a particularly good card. I feel like in general, you tend to be better off just killing people as opposed to playing cards that generate long value. It's hard to have a value game plan in a format that's topping out at like Field of the Dead. You're just like not gonna outvalue Golos or Yarok Field. So, one of the big payoffs to this card, in addition to it having flying being a big deal, is that this card I think is also better because it's an enchantment itself. So this triggers Setessan Champion, which is a big deal. Ooh, Nox on Twitter responded to my tweet and recommended Adanto Vanguard. That's probably a good suggestion. That's my doorbell. I think I'm just passing here. Yeah, the takeouts arrived. Not quite. So I think my plan for next turn, so I've waited to play this because I'm playing around a time wipe or I'm trying to play around a time wipe or another thing, but this probably means I've waited too long. Believe it or not, we still have mail that gets delivered. They haven't stopped delivering mail. So no, it's not takeout. I practice what I preach. Yeah, I probably should have just jammed this on 3. This was a good example of me trying to play around something, and then in the process of playing around something, I caused myself to lose the thing that they're more likely to have. Deck and Stone would be such a good addition to this format. If we draw Ancestral Mask, we might be able to kill them next turn. Get 2 shots at it. Rats. I actually don't really have any cards for this matchup in my sideboard. What are even cards this deck could play for... What are cards I could even play for the field matchup? Does anybody know? Yeah, IQR is the next standard set. It should be sometime in mid-April, I believe. 16th or so. I think it's just run them down. Yeah, Settle the Wreckage is a real card. Settle could be an answer that we could play if we wanted to be a little reactive or be able to beat a... I mean, Settle's like a card that would come in other matchups. It's a fine suggestion. It's like not amazing here. And like their decks don't play that many basics. It's fine. So like our deck's racing. So like settling them and giving them a couple more zombies back so we can untap and kill them the following turn is like a real thing that would happen. The artifact that shrink tokens isn't good enough. With one power, zombies are still gonna eat your brains. That's not strictly true. Everybody that's saying they'll just get a brand new army of zombies, go count how many basics these decks play on average. And then consider that they're probably going to have a couple of them in play already. Thanks for the support, Bulgarian. I appreciate that. Glad you're staying safe out there. I hope you haven't been in quarantine for 42 months. Thanks for keeping me around, Innocent Smith. Okay, we got another champion for after they sweep our board next turn. If they don't have a sweeper or a bounce spell for this champion, the Ancestral Mask is going to pop up and beat him down. This is an aggro deck. It just does draw a lot of cards for an aggro deck. You're not wrong. Sure. Bezos money could go to at least one person stuck at home. You're not wrong. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. These actually let us cut through zombies as well, right? Which is decent. In. That's two colors of things though, right? You also don't want to give protection from green or your green enchantments will fall off. Really need a trample enchantment again. Ah, feels Magic 2020, man. Oh, Tefri, do. I hate you now. Just looking for a trample enchantment. Okay, there's a trample enchantment.
I've got time.
You want to cast Nexus in peace? Get out of here. Chug-a-lug, chug-a-lug. Just like we drew it up, chat. Shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em up, move 'em out, Rod. It's impressive how Magic is able to do something so good and then immediately just like mess it up in the next breath. So apparently the Magic Online qualifier events that are happening, people who are already qualified for the Players Tour can play in the events that qualify people. And if someone who's already qualified makes the finals of the tournament, the invite doesn't pass down to the person they beat to get there. So, like, you can play if you're already qualified, but you're literally just showing up and dream crushing people. Like, that should be so trivially easy for them to account for. Because, like, the number of times that that's going to happen over however many of the events these are is pretty minimal. Like, for the love of God, just take the extra 20 minutes it's going to take you to figure out who's already qualified that made the finals of, like, these 24 tournaments. Like, because, like, adding the tournament, super good. So then they had to make a super boneheaded decision to, like, balance out the super good thing they did, I guess. How is it? Things don't pass down or things do pass down? Goodbye, friends. Yes, correct. You don't even have the client handle it. The exception is so rare, you just handle the exception by hand. It's going to happen so infrequently, you just go, okay, this is like, we'll take care of it. Well, you know, land? Oh, they don't pass down in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sure. Just because Yu-Gi-Oh! Also has crappy policies doesn't mean Magic needs to as well. That's one of my least favorite things, when people are like trying to justify a crappy thing one business is doing by like pointing out the equally crappy thing someone else does. It's like, well, just because they're crap doesn't mean you should also aspire to be crap. Maybe let's aim to be better instead of just like being the same.
I've got it.
Anything done in Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be a good sign. You should do the opposite. Quite possibly.
You show remorse, I'll show restraint. Enough. This might be a bad idea.
Untapped land? Untapped land? What about isms have no borders? Alright, do I want to play some Adanto Vanguard? Adanto Vanguard's probably better than this Lion, huh? I forgot that was a card when I was putting this together. If I could spell. I guess probably better than Lion. Holding up 2 mana for Lion is so expensive. Yeah, I agree, Silence. Most situations, Lion's gonna be a lot better, or Adonto's gonna be a lot better. Some edge cases where Lion's probably fine too, but on average. The company I work for, Lowe's, told us that they consider Lowe's to be an essential store. They are committed to staying open during regular hours during this pandemic. Thoughts? I feel like a store like Lowe's has more of a basis for that argument than somewhere like, you know, GameStop, or even more so than restaurants. I feel like there are emergencies that could occur where products that you need to get from a place like that are necessary to remedy the emergency. Lowe's is a hardware store. For people that aren't familiar with it, you're in another country or just don't have them in your area. Lowe's is a hardware store. They have cleaning supplies too. That's a good point. All right, who's got 2 thumbs and isn't playing around the big sweeper? This guy right here. Turn 3 attack for 6 flying. Let's go. They didn't block there. The fact they didn't block means hopefully... Tefri heard I was having too much fun in Historic, chat. Hide your memes, chat. Tefri's coming for you. Everybody hide your memes. Tefri wants your memes, chat. I am... Hey, I mean, when we started, I talked about why this deck was bad in Standard, and I did posit that there was less of this card here, but less is not zero.
I'll protect you.
Yeah, Lowe's, that's fair too. Lowe's isn't a store that's likely to be particularly crowded most of the time. Yeah, probably about to get scape shifted. Let's lead on this. We'll get to scry 1, draw a card. This makes my other things cheaper. Looking for a trample enchantment here. Let's bottom that. Think Elvish or Claymore would fit in this deck? You listen here, punk. I don't think this matters, because I assume they're about to make an unbeatable number of zombie tokens. Listen here, fat Joe Biden 2020. He's so presidential, pray waits. Oh, I didn't put Settle on the board. I was so focused on the Vanguards. Yeah, I need to sneak some Settles in here. Whenever I need anything at a hardware store, the employees always seem very keen on social distancing. That's fair. That's fair. In that specific instance, Settle wouldn't have been useful. But I think in general, it's probably still a fine card. Alright. Let's draw a third land, huh? I believe we can find the land. Third land or turn 2 Paradise Druid. Either of those would be a deal here. We get 1 shot at the Druid, we get 2 shots at the land. I guess I should be specific and specify not the 1 copy of Temple of Plenty. The one copy of Temple of Plenty would not be ideal. Swish. I think we played this on 2, even though it would draw a card after these. So I want to use my mana efficiently. I got plenty of things that are going to draw cards here. I think I'm bottoming this. I think I, 1, want to trample enchantment, 2, also want to hit my land drop next turn, so I want to give myself the most chance to do that. Non-zero chance to, like, play Teferi, bounce my champion here, so I want a chance to, like, be able to play champion plus Sentinel's Eyes next turn. I feel like that's the one non-land card I have to leave on top here. I was pretty dead set on digging for a land, but I don't think I can ship the Trample enchantment here. That's great to hear, Toastmaster. It's not all sad capitalistic nightmare stories out there. It is not a very pretty season, chat. It's not the season of beauty, it's a season of growth. And Setessan Champion here is all about growing up. So they have a lot of creatures. No, I don't think this means I ship the Trample enchantment, because they have things like this. They have green creatures. They have all sorts of different things that mean this isn't good enough. All right, so now the plan is to suit this one up, right? You went to the bank and apparently people are withdrawing a lot of cash. That's kind of funny. Do people not realize that, like, if the banks can't give them money, that the actual currency is going to be worthless as well? We're also, like, nowhere near that level of panic or insanity necessary, but, like, in the event the bank that can't give you money, the actual paper for the people that got it out, like, also not going to be particularly useful. Yes, also, money is one of the dirtiest things you touch regularly. It is a huge transmission vector. $1% cocaine on every dollar bill. Maybe they want paper money because it's cheaper than toilet paper. New meaning to flushing cash down the toilet. I've got enough resources at this point that I'm just like strapping this on here and shipping in. Feeling about 22 here. They want to trade 11 zombies for this. Let's go. Stream Decker does not look like the deck we're playing. It is exactly the deck we are playing. I don't know what you're referring to. The preview also has it. Refresh your browser if you have the wrong overlay deck. Yes, if the banks fail, the FDIC protects it. If the FDIC can't protect it, invest in leather and Mad Max motorcycles. It's only a little bit scary. My understanding of the border closures is that they only pertain to people traveling for non-essentials. My understanding was that supply chains were going to stay open. If you have a source on supply chains not staying open, please link it in chat. Canada has a 4-hour backup coming in and a 4 to 5 hour coming to the US. So does the logistics company. And the logistics company I may or may not work for is reporting. Wild. Yeah, all the people like migrating home. It's also another vector of transmission. Man, if we just like had Deccan Stone or just like any way to exile zombies, we could maybe be okay here. But we just don't, right? We're still dead on board even through this, right? Like I play another enchantment out here. I have a 10-10. I'm effectively at 49. They have 40 zombies. That's 80. Yeah, we're dead. Yeah, more. I heard that. We've hit a lot of different decks today in Historic, but I also feel like, yeah, Settle the Wreckage, thanks for the reminder. I also feel like we keep hitting pockets of them. Like, we played against the same thing a couple of times, and then, like, we go play against something else a couple of times. It would be nice if we could just, like, spread them out. Like, get a Nexus deck here, a Nexus deck there, a field deck here, a field deck there, instead of, like, Nexus, field, field. Grull. I don't think Field of the Dead pushes this deck out of the format. I think if you're concluding Field of the Dead pushes this deck out of the format, you're not actually paying attention to the games that we're playing. The games that I'm playing and losing, and this is why people don't understand Field of the Dead and can't evaluate its power level accordingly. I didn't lose that game to Field of the Dead. I lost that game to Teferi. Teferi was the reason I wasn't able to run my opponent down. Field of the Dead was just the card that had the decency to actually kill me after my opponent took over control of the game. Field of the Dead just came in and swept up. The thing that beat me was Teferi. Yeah, I mean, there's always best decks in any given format. That's definitely for sure. Yeah, maybe we are just supposed to splash blue. You could play Deputy of Detention. Not only the card that gets fly. I don't know that we necessarily need the flying card so much as Deputy of Detention sounds pretty great. It's like when people complain about Dream Trawler. It's like, what do you want, like, the opponent to, like, Teferi emblem you out of the game over 80 turns? No, have them play the Dream Trawler and kill you. Splashing black for Plague actually isn't unreasonable. Like, this is a good example of identify a problem, figure out a solution. Like, what issue are we having? How is that issue solved by making a change? Yeah, Maelstrom Pulse is a card that we'd also gain from black that's decent against zombie tokens. Yeah, Plague would trigger Champion too. That could. It would work with Glitters and Ancestral Mask. A black splash could be very reasonable. It's a thing that, like, okay, we have this problem. Oh, this kind of solves that problem. Let's give it a try. I think they're on Nexus of Fate. We only saw blue-green lands and ramp spells, so hard to know for sure. Ooh, you could play Brain Maggot. I think that's fine. It's a card that got printed into this format. Brain Maggot would be good against decks like Nexus and Control, for sure. Oh, it is another field deck. Okay. Like I said, wasn't sure if it was Nexus. They died very quickly. Thanks for the 8 months, Wildozer. Doomwake. Doomwake's a sweet card. For sure. They have Arathier. Just a root, sure. All I want for Christmas is universal healthcare, student loan reform, and Esper Control player to finally get the hug that parents denied them. Here's to Abzan Enchantment Aggro. I need that in my life. Sounds good, Wargame. I'm going to stack up on this one because we can protect him. Not from Teferi's, but from Sweepers. Alright, I'm just gonna try and fight a different matchup. I'm just bored with this one. I just wanna I wanna try and play our deck against something else. It's like the third one of those in a row. And I had to talk about how there had been less Teferi and Brazen Borrower in this format, and the Historic Ladder was just like, oh, Jeffy, do we have a pounding for you? I'm not a big fan of making big deck edits, like adding an entire color on stream. It's kind of tedious and involves a lot of downtime and math. So it's content that's better done off stream so that we can have less downtime here. Yeah, correct. Like, we know Teferi's bad for us. We don't need to play more to know that. Sweet. Something else. Perfect. You love to see it. Do you not need another Sentinel's Eyes? I think if the aggro matchup for this deck is a problem, we should take our deck and throw it in the garbage can. Because if we have a hard time with Teferi and we have a hard time with aggro, the deck's awful, and just get rid of it. Deck building on stream tends to be kind of dry content, and it tends to elicit responses out of people in chat that are responses I don't want to encourage on my channel. Even people here start shouting random cards with no justification when we get building. I always turn off other Twitch streams when their chats devolve into that. It's just not pleasant in my opinion. It's not constructive or pleasant. I teach you how to deck build. There's not some magic mystery sauce, chat. When I deck build off stream, I start with the core idea and I do the processes that we talk about on stream all the time. I say, okay, here's my core. What problem do I envision this core having? What cards can I play to try and address those problems? And then the process of finding those cards is knowing, okay, these are the types of effects that solve those problems. Let's search for that effect on Scryfall in these converted mana costs. Let's search for it in these colors. Let's search for it with this card type, because this deck is built around this card type. The things I try to encourage you to do, I'm trying to encourage because those are the things that I do. Those are the things that, in my opinion, help you build the best decks you can be building. You can teach that without the dry part of me actually typing things into Scryfall and searching and stuff like that. If you're not familiar with Scryfall, it's like The Gatherer, but if The Gatherer was built by people that understand how to design a website. Here's some more Paw Patrol. Thank you, CJ Durant. I appreciate the quarter of a year. Welcome back. How do I want to board here? I feel like I probably want my interactive elements. My flyers and my tramplers are definitely my best tools here. Baffling End sounds good. This might be a matchup where I'm okay with Settle the Wreckage. Maybe Seasons of Growth's not super useful, just because, like, actually, having card advantage here might be relevant, because these matches tend to gum up a little bit. It's a Gatherer compiled by people who care. That's a reasonable assessment. Maybe I don't want that. I don't know. $110%, Wargy. You the real hero we need. Dunzo. Yeah, let's try this. Sure. Okay. Sure. In my opinion, the concept that formats are only bad because they're competitive, or they get bad when competitive players get a hold of them, is one of the most commonly spread pieces of Magic FUD that I commonly hear repeated in the community. Pioneer is actually a stellar example of this. Pioneer didn't become a smoldering dumpster fire of a format that I don't enjoy because of it being competitive. Pioneer devolved into a smoldering dumpster fire because they printed a bunch of combos into it with Theros and then refused to manage the format afterwards. Pioneer is a format that had competitive events in it right from the start, constantly, and it was great for months with people hammering out and figuring out good optimized deck lists within those. And it was still fine because the issue was never that it was competitive. The issue became that it wasn't being managed. The person in chat that brought up that point, they're far from the first person to bring that up. A solved format, a format where we know the best decks in it are not inherently bad. Formats where the play patterns of the best decks that don't allow counterplay are very frustrating, those things are bad. Data and information is not the enemy. Poor responses to the information we gain from that data is the enemy. That's the problem. In my opinion. Deafening silence actually being fairly annoying here. So they're gonna diddle my life bounty here. We'll attack them with the other life bounty. That's why we started breaking up our things. Our president called Comcast a news company. Well, he thinks Fox News is a news station and not an entertainment station as they're currently classified. So, you know. He probably doesn't fully understand what he's saying. Republicans tend to have a hard time understanding that the words they have defined meanings. They might do pass downs for their new event. Oh, that's my favorite part. The part where they realize they made a boo-boo and start backpedaling. So, this block here looks free, right? But Thalia has first strike. So if I block here, they'll give this lifelink. This'll first strike. They'll gain life. This will be a 3-3 before these bump into each other. Yeah, definitely working. So it says non-creature spells, you only get one of per turn. So I can cast this and still cast this, which is great. Get some trample going here. Actually, maybe you're supposed to make the argument that I'm supposed to block there, because if they use their mana to give lifelink, they wouldn't be able to diddle one of my creatures here. Yeah, maybe I talked myself out of actually making a good play there. I think that's what happened. I think I was supposed to block to force that play or trade. Lots of things to consider. Look at that. We had a non-Teferi deck. It ended up being sweet. Hey, give me some of that sweet. You went from less than 100 cases 4 days ago to over 500 confirmed today. Yeah, the numbers are going to skyrocket everywhere when municipalities gain the ability to actually do tests. All of the testing numbers are low everywhere in the United States because Donald Trump torpedoed our ability to test efficiently because low test numbers made him feel warm and happy. Donald, I heard someone put this situation into a way that really resonated for me. Donald Trump was too stupid to realize that reasonable people would not blame him for being responsible for a global pandemic. And in his fear of trying to make sure that he wouldn't be blamed for a global pandemic, he did a bunch of awful crap that is absolutely his fault and made the situation worse. If he would have just been smart enough to realize to begin with, responding appropriately and things getting tough, if he would have just done the right things, wouldn't have been his fault. We would have all been better off. And in his goal to cover for himself, he made things worse for everyone.
Right on schedule. Time for plan B. No, I am not making this up as I go.
A major hospital in Northern Virginia just sent an alert telling us they can't do outpatient testing. So if you're in need of emergency care, if you aren't in need of emergency care, to use a remote consultation. All right, let's do this plus this now. And then next turn we can get this down and start smacking them. This is, someone was talking about Envoy versus the 2-mana. The 2-mana thing that makes all enchantments cheaper. This being an enchantment account for Ancestral Mask is really huge in situations like this. Gosh, that's better than the Lion. Oh gosh, Omen also counts. It really does. It counts opponents. It doesn't count itself, but it counts all enchantments on the battlefield. Oh, Mercadian Mass Block. You so great.
If you show remorse, I won't let you win.
Yeah, generally speaking, when stupid people do stupid things, it's one of those chuckle and just shake your head moments. Stupid people doing stupid things are going to get people killed in this reality. Probably dead here. They still have 5 cards in their hand and we're mostly out of resources at this point. That's going to plus to make a 2-3. Yikes. Ashiok looking really impressive here. When Ashiok's +1 has meaningful blockers, it gets real good. All right, and that's a 6. So I guess we just hit them and hope to kill them next turn. Just like cross our fingers and hope for the best here. Oh, right. This is just sitting in play. I knew that. All right. Control. Let's try our Sigil of the Empty Thrones here. Looking forward to kicking the tires on them. I think I'm supposed to cut some of these enchantments because of their ability to bounce my stuff. Probably the more expensive one, even if it does hit a little bit harder. I'm going down to 16 creatures, but I'm boarding in 7 extra threats, so I think that's fine. No, it does. I just conceded while it was falling off. Because old magic. Yeah, it follows the old enchantment rules. I mean, speaking of old enchantment rules, don't we all need some more enchant worlds in our life, chat? Who doesn't need another enchant world or two in their life? Omen of the sea, omen of the sea. Do 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 do. UK's Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies is saying that social distancing should remain in effect for 6 months to keep the numbers down. Yeah. Do I plus this or do I tuck their search for Azcanta? I could put their search for Azcanta under this. They get it back if they have a Teferi though. I think that's worth it. I'm gonna try and cut off some of their selection here. It's also the cheekiest play. Just like put your enchantment under my enchant creature. Vraska's Contempt. Get metagamed. Vomit. Sick. 5th land tier is excellent. In it to win it, chat. In it to win it. Every time an enchantment, every time we cast an enchantment. No! Hide your memes, chat! Esper Control is coming for your memes! What did my memes ever do to you? My poor memes! No! My poor memes! Oh, oh no! Look at how they massacred the memes! It's fine. We got a bunch of cards in the bank here. It's gonna be okay. Yeah, this is just a good reminder for everyone that at the end of the day, Field of the Dead is the good guy in this format. Field of the Dead is the one keeping you safe from this. Well, if they block and get Trawler back, Trawler doesn't attack me next turn, which is a net positive for me. So I think it's right to attack even though they get Trawler back, because it means they don't draw a card next turn. Denying them the card draw seems relevant. Next turn, I can attach another All That Glitters, give this protection from blue, and attempt to kill them. My poor memes, chat. My poor memes. This is a good example of our sideboard plan going to work here, huh? Like, our sideboard plan is to board into things that help us grind a little bit. And like, we are certainly doing that, right? Like what? That's their second, like, 4 spot removal spells, Kaya's Wrath. The token is gorgeous. You are not wrong. I was trying to be optimistic, Esper Control. Why do you have to beat the optimism out of me? I mean, it's just like peak arena matchmaking that, like, we haven't played against much 3-mana Teferi in this format at all, and then, like, we queued up with a deck that we talked about how it wasn't going to be good against 3-mana Teferi, and just, like, an endless slew of 3-mana Teferi decks followed. Yeah, they also have Unborn Ego boarded it against us, which is a, let's just say that's a decision. Both of these attack here, ensure Ashiok dies this turn, which I think is more important. Matchmaking's is rigged to zero at this flat. That's the real truther all along, was in the matchmaking lies.
I know 88 ways. You cannot keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind. Double Boros Charm. That's so good. That one's actually good. How about another land, chat? How do you feel about another land? We've got huge tracts of land. So, something that I like to point out in situations like this is, while it feels bad to have drawn this many lands, if you look at the game that's actually been played here, we actually aren't flooded. So, we've seen 25 cards, and in 25 cards, we've drawn 10 lands. So the proportion of lands that we've drawn in the number of cards that we've seen is actually about what you'd expect to see based on the number of lands in our deck. We're very, very close to the average. So it's not so much that we're really flooded, so much as it's just we've seen a lot of cards.
Keep up the pace.
All right. this one feels... This one felt bad for a lot of the same reasons it felt bad in Standard. There's no beating around the bush. Just like, if the format ends up in a spot where there's not constant things bouncing your creatures, this could be okay. Like, I honestly think with giant lifelinkers, this archetype could race Field of the Dead in a lot of situations, but as long as it's being paired with Teferi Time Raveler, I feel like we just don't have the tools we need to be competitive against that. I think this archetype just comes up quite a bit short. I'm going to hit a quick ad roll while I get things flipped over and get set up for the next deck. When we get back, we are going to take a crack at some another Knight of the Reliquary deck here. This one featuring Cavalier of Thorns and some Fields of the Dead. Be back in just a few. Thanks for hanging out today, folks. Don't go anywhere. Hey, gamer. Thanks for the 20 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back.